How exactly did the surrounded men of the 101st Airborne Division survive the freezing, blood-soaked snow of Bastogne during World War II? Welcome to the definitive expert catalog detailing the strictly verified clothing and desperately improvised gear that kept these elite paratroopers alive in -20-degree temperatures. Let us immediately begin our highly accurate analysis of these critical historical survival items. First on our list is the M1943 field jacket. This garment served as the standard outer shell for the paratroopers defending the frozen perimeter. It provided a highly water-resistant and windproof layer against the harsh winter elements. However, the jacket offered very little actual warmth on its own. It was specifically designed to be worn over multiple insulating layers to effectively trap body heat. Next, we have the M1943 field trousers. These were the standard olive drab cotton trousers issued to the men fighting in the field. For the airborne forces, these pants were frequently rigor-modified with large canvas cargo pockets sewn directly onto the thighs. This crucial modification allowed troopers to carry extra ammunition and essential daily combat rations. These heavily reinforced trousers quickly became a trademark visual feature of the World War II paratrooper. Let us continue with the M1937 wool sarge trousers. The men wore these itchy but remarkably warm garments directly underneath their outer cotton field trousers. These heavy wool pants functioned as the true core uniform of the struggling soldier. They provided the actual necessary insulation against the freezing Ardennes temperatures during the brutal battle. Without this specific heavy wool layer, basic survival in the deep snow would have been entirely impossible. Moving on, we have the M1937 wool sarge shirt. This was the standard heavy wool shirt worn securely beneath a protective outer field jacket. It served as a critically vital insulating layer for the vulnerable upper body. The thick wool material trapped precious body heat tightly against the chest and arms. This durable shirt was an absolute daily necessity for enduring the bitter cold of December 1944. Next on the list are the winter undershirt and drawers. Soldiers across the front line often referred to these vital base layers simply as long johns. Officially, they were constructed from a warm blend of 50% wool and 50% cotton. The men wore these directly next to their bare skin for maximum possible thermal retention. They were absolutely vital for basic human survival in the -20-degree conditions of the prolonged siege. Our next item is the high-neck 5-button sweater. This garment was commonly known as the standard Type 1 or Type 2 heavy wool sweater. Paratroopers wore it directly over the wool shirt and tightly under the field jacket to maximize their core warmth. The tall high neck design provided crucial additional protection for the throat against freezing winter winds. It was highly valued by the exhausted troops for its thick and incredibly durable construction. Let us look at the M1943 combat service boots. These standard-issue footwear items were widely known by the ground troops as double-buckle boots. While they were the verified standard issue, they were unfortunately not waterproof and were very poorly insulated. This severe lack of basic weatherproofing led directly to devastating mass cases of trench foot among the defending soldiers. Although veterans often vastly preferred their older jump boots for elite status, these double-buckle boots were the harsh reality. Moving forward, we must discuss the M1944 shoe packs. These were specialized Arctic overshoes, featuring waterproof rubber bottoms and flexible leather tops. However, there was a critical supply shortage, and the men did not receive them in quantity until after the siege was finally broken. The devastating lack of these specific insulated boots remains a historically significant factor in the high casualty rates from severe frostbite. If they had been issued earlier, countless medical evacuations could have been entirely prevented. Next, we have the M1 Airborne helmet. This was the standard heavy steel pod equipped with a plastic inner liner and a paratrooper-specific leather chin cup. Many of these helmets proudly displayed specific regimental markings, such as spades, hearts, diamonds, or clubs, stenciled boldly on the sides. It provided essential ballistic protection against deadly artillery shrapnel and flying debris in the shattered forests. The inverted steel shell also served frequently as a makeshift bucket for boiling drinking water. Let us continue with the M1941 wool knit cap. Soldiers almost universally called this highly comfortable winter item the Jeep cap. It was very frequently worn directly underneath the heavy steel helmet to provide much-needed warmth to the exposed head. The unique design featured a short front brim and could easily be pulled down tightly over the freezing ears. The simple knit cap was easily one of the most beloved pieces of winter clothing issued during World War II. Next on our catalog is the M1943 protective hood. This was a specially designed button-on cotton hood, meant to attach directly to the standard field jacket collar. Its primary defensive purpose was to shield the head and the vulnerable neck area from biting winter winds. When buttoned up completely, it left only the eyes and nose exposed to the harsh outdoor elements. It was an excellent windbreaker, even though it completely lacked any heavy internal thermal insulation. Moving on, we have the M1943 leather glove shells and wool inserts. This standard cold weather handwear system consisted of a durable leather shell worn completely over a separate wool knit insert. This intelligent two-part design allowed soldiers to quickly remove the bulky leather shell for fine dexterity tasks like complex trigger work. Meanwhile, the inner wool layer remained securely on the hand to prevent immediate frostbite on exposed skin. It was a highly practical layered system for fighting efficiently in extreme sub-zero temperatures. Next, we feature the standard olive drab wool scarf. This was a very simple but incredibly effective piece of cold weather survival gear issued to the men. Often, if one was not officially issued, desperate paratroopers simply cut long strips from heavy wool blankets to create their own. They wrapped these scarves tightly around their exposed collars to prevent precious core body heat from escaping. This one small addition incredibly made a massive survival difference during the freezing nights in the snowy foxholes. Let us look now at the M1936 suspenders. These were rugged woven canvas straps arranged in either an X or a Y configuration directly across the back. Their primary military function was to reliably support the heavy physical weight of the loaded cartridge belt and the rear musette bag. By carefully distributing the heavy load across the broad shoulders, they prevented the equipment belt from completely dragging down the trousers. They were an absolute foundational staple of the standard airborne infantry canvas webbing system. Continuing our list, we have the M1923 cartridge belt. This was the standard 10-pocket heavy canvas ammunition belt issued to all riflemen carrying the M1 Garand rifle. Each of the 10 individual pockets securely held an 8-round and block clip of .30 caliber live ammunition. Officers and men carrying submachine guns typically wore the completely different M1936 pistol belt instead. This heavy loaded belt formed the absolute foundational base of the entire individual paratrooper equipment harness. Next up is the M1936 musette bag. The specific bag served as the primary combat backpack specifically issued to the elite paratrooper forces. Unlike regular infantry soldiers who utilize standard large haversacks, airborne troops attached this particular bag directly to their rear canvas suspenders. It held their absolutely essential daily items, dry spare socks, and extra emergency rations needed for immediate survival. Its highly compact design allowed for much greater physical mobility while fighting intensely in the dense, snow-covered woods. Moving forward, we examine the M1910 canteen, cup, and cover. This was the standard aluminum or stainless steel water canteen that nested perfectly inside a metal drinking cup. During the brutal frozen siege in Bastogne, the liquid water stored inside these canteens frequently froze completely solid. Soldiers often had to hold the frozen metal bodies dangerously close to small open fires just to melt the ice for a single necessary drink. The thin, insulated canvas cover offered very little actual thermal protection against those extreme negative outdoor temperatures. Next, we have the M1942 first aid pouch. This larger canvas pouch intentionally replaced the earlier smaller model to easily accommodate the newly issued modern medical supplies. It was specifically sized to tightly hold the new cardboard boxed Carlisle bandage and the crucial wound sulfa powder shaker. These vital medical items were simply too physically bulky to fit inside the older, smaller brass tins previously issued to troops. Every single fighting soldier carried one of these accessible pouches to treat immediate and life-threatening battlefield trauma. Let us continue with the M1943 entrenching tool. This absolutely essential folding metal shovel was securely carried in a canvas carrier attached directly to the main equipment belt. It was a highly critical survival tool heavily used for digging deep protective foxholes into the rock-solid frozen Belgian ground. Sometimes the frozen earth was so impenetrable that frustrated troops had to use high explosives before they could even use this shovel. When fully locked into an open position, it could also serve as a desperate and lethal close-quarters melee weapon. Next on the equipment list is the M3 fighting knife. This was the standard-issue sharp close combat blade officially given to the specialized airborne forces. Troopers typically strapped it tightly to their lower leg or attached it directly to their belt using an M6 or M8 heavy scabbard. It featured a highly lethal 6 3/4-inch steel blade designed specifically for brutal trench warfare and quiet sentry removal. Beyond actual deadly combat, it was an absolutely essential daily tool used heavily for prying open stubborn wooden ration crates. Moving to field illumination, we have the Type C TL122 flashlight. By late 1944, this specific model, featuring a plastic body and a right-angle head, was the most common version seen in the field. It intelligently included specialized colored glass filters safely stored in the bottom base for discrete nighttime signaling between scattered units. The unique right-angle design allowed moving soldiers to clip it securely onto their suspenders for complete hands-free operation in the absolute dark. It was fundamentally vital for safely navigating the dense, pitch-black pine forests during highly dangerous nighttime combat patrols. Next, we must deeply discuss the unissued improvised snow camouflage. The desperate men famously scavenged pure white bedsheets and pristine civilian tablecloths directly from abandoned local Belgian homes. They intelligently used these common civilian fabrics to rapidly craft makeshift white ponchos and temporary white helmet covers. This desperate survival innovation occurred simply because they completely lacked any officially issued winter snow camouflage for the snowy environment. These highly effective white improvisations miraculously allowed them to blend into the snowy background and actively avoid lethal enemy sniper fire. Let us look next at the standard olive drab wool blankets. The average enlisted airborne trooper relied heavily on these thick blankets, which were often stolen or aggressively scavenged from any available local source. They cleverly combined these thick wool covers with their canvas shelter half-pup tents to form basic outdoor survival sleeping arrangements. They absolutely did not typically carry the heavy and cumbersome officer-style canvas bedding roll into actual frontline combat situations. These simple green wool rectangles quite literally meant the direct difference between freezing to absolute death or safely surviving the long nights. Continuing on, we have the M1938 dismounted raincoat. This heavy, waterproof, rubberized canvas coat was the standard wet weather issue, officially verified for heavy usage during the historical siege. The modern lightweight nylon military poncho was far less common in the European theater at this specific time. Compared directly to this heavy raincoat, while it successfully repelled wet freezing moisture, the rubberized canvas material became notoriously stiff and extremely noisy in freezing winter weather. Regardless of its many physical flaws, it provided an absolutely necessary physical barrier against the freezing sleet and heavy falling snow. Next up is the M6 lightweight gas mask bag. This highly durable waterproof canvas shoulder bag was widely retained by smart paratroopers long after they had permanently discarded their heavy protective gas masks. It was creatively repurposed by the men and used as a highly effective utility carry-all satchel slung casually over the shoulder. Soldiers eagerly stuffed it completely full of extra .30 caliber rifle ammunition, deadly fragmentation grenades, and life-saving daily rations. It quickly became an unofficial but absolutely vital piece of load-bearing canvas equipment for the overburdened frontline infantrymen. Finally, we conclude our historical catalog with the wool cushioned sole socks. Both standard light wool and heavy wool sock variants were initially issued in pairs to the defending frontline troops. Because their leather double-buckle boots were completely vulnerable to freezing water, soldiers were officially instructed to wear multiple pairs and change them out daily. However, this strict medical directive was an absolute physical impossibility during the brutal, static, and freezing frontline siege conditions. This tragic and unavoidable inability to keep their feet perfectly dry and warm directly caused mass medical casualties from devastating trench foot.